Well, good morning.
Good morning to you.
Hey, she's still Vaughn.
He's still Stuart.
And we're here again with another version of something to talk about.
And another version of COVID-19 to talk about.
Right. And a change in authority at the head of the country. So,
about to be. Yep. A big
all
day.
of it falls on the same day. Amazing.
Yes.
But you know what? We're glad you chose to spend this hour with us because it's going to be a great conversation this morning. We have a very special guest, and we're just really excited about sharing our show and our talk with you and with our very special guest. And Vaughn, with that, I'm going to let you introduce her.
Oh, well, okay. Well, I'm just going to bring her right in. She's backstage right now. Her name is Melissa Wayte. And those of you who live here in Frisco and down in Dallas and in Plano know her well as the owner of one of my favorite gift shops, Paper Affair. And I'm in there all the time buying this and that. And here she is, beautiful Melissa Wayte. And we're
Welcome to the show, Melissa.
We're so excited to talk to you today, although I wish it was it's a positive subject because hopefully you're going to share with us kind of how your small business endured during these times. But we definitely are just going to dig deep into small businesses and kind of how were they prepared? If not, how did they get prepared? How did they manage their operations during these times? There are a lot of logistics that play into especially small businesses during COVID-19. So we're hoping that you'll be able to share with our listeners your personal and professional insight on this topic. So welcome to the show.
Absolutely. Thank you.
I think a great place to start, Melissa, would be right from the beginning of when did Paper Affair start? Where did it first start? Where did the idea come from? And get us right from day one. Where the idea came from and how it started.
Sure. So the first Paper Affair opened down on Lover's Lane in the Tollway, my Dallas location, and we are at our 14-year anniversary. So 14 years ago.
Wow.
I actually have a long career background in finance, worked for Goldman Sachs and JP Morgan, but I always had this little itch to open a retail store. And my husband and I actually met getting our MBAs, and so in finance. So he kind of joked with me and he said, you know that retail stores don't make money, right? Like,
that's right.
Why do you
more than 50% of them fail within the first 5 years?
And I just said, you know what, ever since I was a little kid, kids are playing teacher in school and doctor, I was playing retail store. I just always thought it would be fun. So I decided to just leave the finance world behind and try it out. And so that was 14 years ago.
I love it. I did not know that personal background story. Did you ever play running a retail business during a pandemic?
That was never part of the repertoire. No, this has been a whole new learning curve.
Right,
yeah.
So Dallas is 14 years old, and then the second shop was in Plano.
Yes, and it opened a year after Dallas.
Okay.
And then Frisco opened 2 years after Plano. So Frisco's been open now about 10 years.
Wow. So all three locations are between 10 and 14 years.
Exactly.
Now, where did the idea for the concept of Paper Affair, which is a lot of personalized products?
Correct.
Is that also part of your dream?
The idea and how we started, it has definitely evolved over the last 14 years, hence the name Paper Affair. I was always obsessed with stationery. I did classes on how to do calligraphy. Like, I loved paper. I loved everything about paper and writing. And so I wanted to have a paper store. And so when the Dallas store first opened, it was predominantly paper. Vaughn will tell you, because she's in there a lot now in the Frisco store, paper is still a big part of it, but the majority of our revenues come from gifts, candles, frames, you name it, jewelry.
There's glassware, there's clothing.
Wedding gifts, it's gifts. And so what we realized when we opened the Dallas store is within probably a month of opening, I realized we had just a few little gift tables, and those were selling out every week. Like, I was having to replenish the gifts. And I thought in Highland Park on Lovers, there were plenty of gift stores. I didn't think that was a need. And I realized very quickly that there was a need for that. So we started shifting a little bit. And so each year it just shifts a little bit more. We still do a lot of paper. We still do a lot of wedding invitations and stationery, but we also offer a lot of gifts.
Yeah, it really is a place where you can go in, and if you can't find what you're looking for, they will direct you to where you need to be. You'll never go in and leave that store without having your questions answered. That's what I have always found.
Thank you, Dawn.
Well, I speak the truth, and it's a fun experience. And Melissa does such a good job hiring staff with just vibrant personalities that make you want to just kind of hang out there and shop around for a while. And you don't just leave with just a little gift, but you leave with your gift very, very creatively wrapped. I can't tell you how many times I've been in there and I have about 30 minutes to get to some kind of celebration, and I can get in, get the perfect gift, have it wrapped just so fun, and get to my party. And so it's a great experience overall. And Melissa is not only, just with her background that she just, told us, she's not only creative in how she manages her business, but extremely intelligent. And that's why I really wanted her to speak on this topic, Stuart, and for all of our listeners, because I think she's going to have a lot to say in terms of just, kind of how she managed this small business. And I say small business, but she's got 3 locations. She's got one in Dallas, as she said, Plano and Frisco. I imagine, Melissa, correct me if I'm wrong, that the dynamics might be different.
Definitely.
Based on each location. So you might find yourself not only having to manage your business, but manage each location differently. So I just want to jump in, Stuart, if you don't mind, with a quick kind of question to kick us off here. Obviously, Melissa, you never expected this pandemic. Who did? Okay, so here we are now. Looking back on the days prior to what we never expected to happen or to be going on for this long, do you think your business was prepared from a kind of a business strategy standpoint for an emergency like this?
The short answer is no. Right. I was not prepared.
Right. And just so you know, I figured that'd be your answer. Most businesses were not. So therefore then, how did you shift gears? Generally speaking, because I know you can't speak to all that you did, but generally speaking, your overall business strategy, did you have to get together with professionals to help you through it? Did you have to get together? How did you, in the beginning, when all this started and you saw how bad it was going to be and how long it was going to go on, how did you put your mind around your business operations and effectively make changes to survive this?
Sure. Well, and I will tell you first, I told somebody this the other day. I said, it was kind of like, y'all will both remember, you remember where you were when you heard that Princess Diana had died. You remember where you were when you heard that the space shuttle crashed. I will never forget where I was sitting in my PJs in my bed on the phone with American Express trying to explain to them that I had a very large paper affair bill that wasn't going to be paid. I will never forget that feeling, that fear, that overwhelming sense of what do I do now? So yeah, I put that kind of all in the same little categories. Very quickly, we didn't know, you remember early on, we just said March 23rd, you have to shut down. We had no idea when we'd be allowed to reopen. At first, I thought it might just be a week or two. Once we realized it was going to be longer, I immediately went to social media. I went to Facebook and I went to Instagram and I started doing videos of me walking around the store. You probably saw some of these, Vaughn, walking around the store, holding up products like I was Vanna White. Because it was right before Easter. I knew people needed Easter baskets. They needed Easter gifts. So I was walking around showing Easter gifts. Then I transitioned to graduation gifts. And I literally put my cell phone on every place I could put it. We emailed it out. We social media'd out. And I had customers texting and calling me all day long. And it was me, like going to the store, wrapping gifts, and then hand delivering. So at first I'm like, this is kind of silly compared to the business I'm losing. Like, this is a little bitty bit, but for me, it felt like something. And for the customers that did want to stay engaged, they knew I would do anything to help them. And then word of mouth got around, and people started. I mean, I had people never been in our store calling me because they needed a gift, and everything was closed. So that was the initial step. The second big thing that I did is we had never had a website to sell merchandise, and part of that was my strong belief in brick and mortar retail stores. And I kind of, customers would always say, I wish you were online. And I just said, I don't want to be. I want people to come in and get the feeling Vaughn experienced, where we're a family, we're friends, you come in and see us. So I had really pushed against that. But when this happened, Vaughn, you know, my 17-year-old daughter, Sydney said, Mom, you've got to have a website. And I said, I don't have time. I'm driving all over the city delivering gifts. And she said, I'll do it. So over the course of that next 3 or 4 weeks, my daughter built Paper Affair a website to buy product. And so that was kind of the two main things we did until we were allowed to reopen.
Right.
If that answers your question. And so,
it totally answered the question. And I think, you know, backing up on my question, when we speak of this topic, and Stuart and I, unfortunately, over the past almost year now, we've been having a difficult time finding topics that don't somehow relate to COVID. It's just
right.
Exactly.
So
it is what it is, yeah.
You know, so I think that whenever we discuss any topic that falls under that subject, we find ourselves under a very large umbrella. And in this case too, I find ourselves under a large umbrella, meaning that your business, and a friend of mine and I were discussing as I was gathering my notes for this topic, this show, had explained to me that there's business to business and business to consumer. And you find yourself in the category of business to consumer, where your challenges were different than a business to business, for example. Right. Also, for example, restaurants find themselves in a different area of challenges. Gyms, et cetera. I could go on and on. Fine dining compared to a small hamburger joint, because one can do takeout more effectively than the other. Right. So there are a lot of different. So you're speaking very much to your business to consumer. So what I find interesting, and obviously it doesn't surprise me because you're such an effective business owner, that you immediately knew that a way to keep your business afloat was to go down that path that you were not initially comfortable with, or that you didn't really want to embrace, but to keep your business afloat, you did. And that was to go online and to tap into social media, which kept your business afloat, which benefited not only you, but all of us out here who love your store. Also, I like how you were saying, during that time, consumers wanted to continue shopping, and we couldn't get into your store, but you changed your strategies in a way. I mean, I know I personally got things delivered by one of your staff members several times, and it was a way to keep us connected, and so that when you did reopen, we were still there. Exactly. And you were still there. And so you did what you needed to do, which brings me to my next question. Do you think you're going to continue online and social media and website, when we get through this?
Yes. So one thing I do want to mention on the social media, we already had Facebook and Instagram. I was smart enough to realize 3 or 4 years ago that I was not savvy enough at that. That's still not my thing. I still don't do anything personally on social media. So I hired a young A&M grad who's brilliant at it. And so she manages our social media. And so the good news is that platform was already there, and we already had a lot of followers. So I do want to mention, I didn't just start that up. That was already there, which was But to answer your question on, am I going to keep it? The thing that's been so interesting is while we had to be shut down, and in the first month or two of people being home and not sure if they wanted to feel safe getting out or not, a lot of our online orders were local. In the last 3 or 4 months, I would say the majority of our online orders are people in other states, even in other countries. We are shipping orders. and my local customers are coming in. So what I found was it opened up a whole different group of people who had never seen Paper Affair, and I didn't lose the feeling of people coming into the store who were local. So I think it's been, I think I learned a lesson that I was wrong and I should have done it sooner, but it is a positive and we will keep it. Yeah.
Okay. Well, that's
Melissa, you bring up a real good point, and I will say, because I spent 40 years in retail. My wife and I were in women's fashion for 40 years. The advantage that you have over, even having 3 locations, the advantage you have is your adaptability, the ability to foresee something like the pandemic and say, okay, how do I not recreate myself, but how do I repurpose myself? And so what did you do? You said you went on Facebook and all, and you took that camera and you started, here, this just came into the shop. And if you want to know more about it, let us know. Give us a call if you'd like to place an order. You repurposed yourself. You have a neighbor right a few doors away from you, Mike Luther over at Up Inspired Kitchen.
Yes.
The same thing happened when he was forced to close his doors. He immediately reached out to his customers and said, we're not out of business. What we will do is we will cook for you and we will put it right out in front and you can stop by and pick it up. So you repurposed yourself. In the meantime, other businesses like yours that had personalized stationery, they were going out of business because they didn't react to that challenge. The one thing that I love about your business is because it is so personalized. A lot of things are personalized. And by the way, I'm going to give a shout out to your bathrobes. You make bathrobes that are customized with embroidered lettering. My daughter-in-law's absolute favorite bathrobe, because it makes it special. There are magazines. Every week you get a magazine from some gift company and all that's offering things for you to order from their company or online. There is something about being inside that store with that touchy-feely and your staff that says, oh, if you want it personalized, may I suggest this, this, and this? That's the part of it you don't get out of a magazine. That's the part you don't get out of a website, is the guidance of professional people to help you fill the request the best way possible.
Thank you for saying that.
Yeah,
well, that
your staff is incredible.
Yeah, that brings us to another good question for you, Melissa. So when you finally got to a point where consumers could come back into the store, obviously then you were faced with kind of a new business strategy in terms of how do you keep your staff safe? How do you keep your consumers safe? So what were some new elements of business that you put in place regarding just safety and health issues?
Yeah, as soon as we were told we could reopen on May 1st, we were open on May 1st. And I was surprised. I would have customers come in and say, well, no one else is open yet. And I'm like, why? Like, I don't understand. If you're going to survive this, like, you got to open the second they say you can open. And I give huge kudos to my employees. As both of y'all know, we have very little turnover. My employees have been with me 5, 7, many of them 10 years, several of them since the day we opened 14 years ago. So it's a family. We're very close. And, I just called them all and I said, we're opening, how do you feel? I need people. Are you comfortable? And I would say the majority were ready to go. They were like, I'm sitting at home, I'm bored, let's go, let's do this. I had a few that said I'm not comfortable yet. And so when we initially reopened, we had a few that chose to stay home a little longer, but I had enough willing to come back that we were able to open May 1st with plenty of staff. What we decided to do was staff, and even to this day, it's been a year now, we all wear a mask. We require customers to wear a mask. And we clean and sanitize, the surfaces all day, every day.
And that's not easy with 12,000 products inside the store to go out and try and clean all those shelves. It's not
easy. We had little things that, I miss, like we're no longer sampling the poppy popcorn that everybody loves. And we're no longer, there's some changes people don't have to sign their receipt anymore. We don't want people having to share pins. So some little adjustments, but it was enough that customers and employees felt very safe coming in. And our store, and I reminded customers too, I said, it's not like going to Walmart or the grocery store or Target. Like, there's never more than 6 or 8 people in our store at a time. Right. In my opinion, you should feel safer coming in there. It's very easy to keep distance if you want to keep distance. And absolutely. I will say that the hardest part about the customer situation, as I mentioned, wearing masks, is, as you both know very well, there is a huge divide on, does the mask work and should you wear it, versus, those that really want to wear it and those that really don't. And I had complaints. I had customers email and say, I will not wear a mask, and because you're requiring it, I won't come in. And then I had customers say, if you don't make everyone wear a mask, I'm not coming in. So it was a real challenge to try to balance really strong opinions in a way that everybody felt safe. But I think we've done it. I think it's worked. And I think customers and employees both feel safe to come to our store.
That's very interesting. I know of the divide wearing masks. I have friends who think it's a bunch of malarkey, and then others who take it very seriously. And it's interesting that as a business owner, it didn't occur to me really, but it makes sense that you would have to deal with that divide from a professional standpoint, trying to make both employee and consumer comfortable. I could see how that would be a challenge. One thing is interesting though, or not interesting, I have to share though, Stuart, since she's talking about masks, my daughter actually just called me the other day, my Emily, who's a senior down at Baylor, and she said, Mom, would you please run over to Paper Fair? I need more masks. Melissa knows this. People have become very kind of like mask, I don't know, what's the word I'm looking
aficionados.
for? Well, or just they've become like, how you're brand loyal. I think some people have become mask loyal. Melissa will tell you, and Karen, her manager at the Frisco store, will tell you, I'm very mask loyal. I found masks that I liked in the very beginning of all of this at Paper Fair. And I'm very comfortable with those. No other mask works for me now. I put it on and I'm just like, so it's funny, and so they also not only wear their masks from a safety standpoint, but sell really, really great masks as well for me. But Melissa, speaking of your staff, again, I had a conversation with a friend of mine who is also a business owner in a different type of business. But he was telling me that he has been very much addressing employee morale during this time. I don't know that any of us really thought that this would be going on this long to this degree. And he was noticing, and maybe not so much in your industry, so this might not even be a question that you have to address, but he was noticing that he needed to kind of tap into their emotional state during this time. Have you had to really deal with any kind of emotions, heightened emotions during this time amongst your staff members? Obviously, you said at the beginning that if they weren't comfortable, don't come back. But has that been something that has been big enough that you've had to really kind of embrace?
No. I mean, to answer, no, I really haven't. And I think part of it is because we gave them the choice. I mean, this is retail. It's not a salaried career where you have to come back to work now if I tell you to.
Right.
It's hourly. And so if somebody said, I don't feel comfortable coming back, I said, okay, let us know when you are. So I think for that reason, people came back when they felt ready.
Yeah.
And again, the personality of our stores is just fun and happy. And I think people have been home for so long. They're just so happy to come to work and be able to see people and talk and engage that I really haven't had an issue with that.
Also, I think too, that when this all happened a year ago, a lot of people just felt uncomfortable wearing masks and going out in public wearing masks. Today, it's commonplace. I mean, like Vaughn said, people are going out and they're wearing masks for their favorite football teams.
Right.
It's become an almost an advertising medium too. But you expect people to be wearing masks.
Exactly.
And I subscribe to the philosophy that if it's your store and you want everybody that walks through your door to be wearing a mask, if they don't want to wear a mask, then invite them to go online and take a look at your products online, and you'll fill their order online. But your house, your rules, their house, their rules.
Well, and I will say, we did also offer, and I've done this several times. I have met customers up there before we open, after we close, on the weekends. Both people that didn't want to wear a mask, and I said, come on when we're not open, or people that were, even though they were wearing a mask and we were wearing a mask, they were still nervous. And so I said, no problem, you can come when we're not open. So we have done a lot of that, you know, just catering to what people feel most comfortable with.
It sounds like your business strategy, your new business plan, if you have one in place, it sounds to me like it was very logical and just a lot of common sense. You considered people's personal emotional state. You considered comfort levels. You remained very flexible in terms of how you did your business. To me, having this conversation, a lot of this is just consider the concept of your business, consider your consumer, consider the buying habits, whatever, and kind of develop a plan accordingly that kind of still maintains that personal kind of interaction, which you've done, to me, sounds like just perfectly. Well, I know that you also did curbside. There were a couple times where I pulled up and they would run out. You can purchase it over the phone, credit card, all that. And, you know, and then a couple times, like I said, it was delivered. Now, maybe that's not as much anymore, but if it's working and if it's cost effective for you, I would assume that you would keep that as a part of your business, because who knows when all people are going to be back to 100% comfort level. I don't know that will ever happen.
Well, and I will say along those lines, and a shout out to our customers, because from the moment we reopened, we have been just as busy as we were in February before we had to close. And our customers showed up in force and have supported us and have really, I think a lot of them have told me, they've made a real effort to shop small and to focus more buying in their communities. And for that reason, we will survive this. And believe me, I was scared. I thought, okay, when we reopen May 1st, what if no one shows up? But that didn't happen. We had our crowds back and our customers back. And I always tell my older employees, my younger employees don't get it, that it feels like Cheers. You walk in and you know the employees, you also know other customers that are shopping. Like, you come in to kind of have a little social time. And so, the first time I used that Cheers example, and a girl just looked at me and I realized she was 25.
You're right.
I think we all both know, so I'm gonna feel safe using it.
I love it.
So I do a huge, huge thank you to any customers that are listening, because they are the reason we will survive this.
Well, and I agree with you, because I'm one of those customers, but you're welcome. No, I'm just kidding. But and I'm one of those people, I think I've even used that word Cheers before too, because I have to be careful, because sometimes, well, Stuart knows I love to be with people, and sometimes I have to be careful because I go into the store and I love chatting with the ladies. They're so great, but I have to remember they're at work. And I need to get in and get out. They're like, okay, Vaughn, bye. But you know, a lot of
what? I would take that any day over, a non-relationship exchange.
Well, you've personalized your business and you've made it a very friendly, environment. And I think that all that you did up until the reopening on May 1st, you did it. You did everything that you could to keep, consumer retailer relationship connected. And I think that right there was huge in terms of when you reopened May 1st. You had the activity that you experienced. You have to remember too. And Stuart and I talked about this on another show for some reason, but I remember the statistics, Stuart, was something like, I don't know, 47 or 50% of our total economy is made up of small businesses. Does that number ring true? I think it's around that area, which is,
that sounds right, but I don't know.
No small potatoes. And what's unfortunate is obviously small businesses survived, some thrived, and some closed. You obviously didn't close, Melissa, but would you say you survived or thrived?
You know what? I would say it's a combination of the two. From the day we reopened, I feel like we are thriving. And all the changes and the adjustments we made, I feel like we're great and we're thriving. The issue that is the struggle for a small business is I had, 2 months in my Collin County stores and really 3 months in the Dallas store where I wasn't allowed to be open. And the commercial landlords didn't care. And so there is still, when I say survive, it's still going to take me many, many years to make up the rent, that retailer space. Stuart, you obviously know this, the lease contract that doesn't stop in a pandemic. And so is that a fair answer? It's both. I mean,
yep.
My business is thriving. I am surviving from a financial standpoint because it will take a long time to
you mentioned earlier that you added in the ability to shop online. To me, that was an extremely smart move back before the pandemic, because obviously the best thing for people to understand about Paper Affair is at least walk through those doors and shop in person initially. Because if I've ordered napkins or I've ordered personalized items and I'm finding that, I'm running a little low, now I can go online and place a reorder and keep that business going and feel like I don't have to get in the car because the doors are closed.
Right.
So that's what I was saying earlier about that reassessing and repurposing your plan of attack.
Yes, and to your point, you mentioned earlier, Stuart, our 12,000 products. I don't know where you got that number. I don't know how you know that. That's impressive.
Am I close?
You're really, really close. It's just phenomenal. I'm like, how did he know? It's like 11,900 something.
Hey, I've gone in and touchy-feelied almost all of them.
But to that point, do we have 12,000 products online? No.
Right.
Especially when it was just my daughter for a while, adding products daily, and then she was adding it around school. And I've now got, my great social media gal adding. But, we started with our most popular and products. And so there are lots of products, but it's probably 10% of the store. And so if you really want to feel for the store, you do have to come in. Will we ever get it all on there? Probably not. One of the things that people love about our store is the inventory changes constantly. Vaughn knows if you see something you like, you better get it because it may not be there in 2 weeks. And so I do part of my Paper Affair strategy on the way our store looks is that there is new stuff all the time. And so a website doesn't work for the stuff that's constantly moving, but it works for the staples, our Nest candles, our LAFCO candles, our Nora Fleming. I mean, all of those things that are staples in our store, you can find online, but you really have to come in if you want to see like the new fast moving stuff.
Well, and especially if you're buying fragrance of any kind, a diffuser or a candle, you got to get your nose on, and you can't do that online unless maybe one day they'll develop a scratch and sniff online.
Go to your computer screen and let's see. I'm just going to. I like that.
Melissa, you were talking also about kind of surviving versus thriving, whatever. Did you ever? I don't know. Were you ever given any kind of break on your rent? Did these landlords ever provide that for you small business owners?
Legally, I can't say a whole lot about that. The answer is in some cases a little bit, in some cases not at all.
Gotcha.
And I have a lot of friends in retail and that have restaurants that are in, centers all over this city, and we all sit around and communicate, and we were all kind of a little bit, it was the biggest surprise for me in the pandemic that layer, there was no expectation that rent would be abated for those months. It's pretty standard no matter who you talk to and who you ask. That's just an area that it is what it is. There's a contract and an agreement. So
I will tell you, it's in some cases there are some strip malls where businesses did not survive and they've gone out. And in my mind, if I was that landlord, I would rather have a bit of reduced rent than no rent at all. Mm-hmm. So it works both ways. There are landlords that just say, no, you can't pay, get out.
And I do know cases like that where they said, I can pay you a part of it. And they said, nope, all or nothing. And they were kicked out. And
Yeah,
so,
I have to agree with both of y'all on that. I don't understand that, because to me, it seems like they're shooting themselves in the foot.
Exactly. Yeah.
and again, I'm not an expert on their side of the business and the way they're seeing things and looking at things. Of my 3 locations, I've got one that's a publicly traded REIT. I've got one that's a small family owner. So I had like I had all different types.
Right.
But pretty much across the board, I mean, they were pretty set in that these are lease agreements.
Melissa, did you find that you got some cooperation from your vendors? Because obviously, when all of this happened, you probably had orders that you had placed, the fall before this ever happened, and all of a sudden you had product that was being made to be sent to you.
Right.
And were the vendors a little more adaptable to say, okay, I'll give you an extra 90 days to pay?
Absolutely. The vendors were amazing. And to Vaughn's point, they saw like I need Paper Affair to buy my products. And if that means I need to give them 90 days, then I'll give them 90 days. So the vendors were really great to work with. I will say though, and I have thought about retail stores that are in fashion like you were, Stuart, that would be really, really challenging. The good thing for me is 95% of my product, it's not, at least at that time of year, in March when we're told to shut down, it's not a seasonal item. We had some Easter items that we weren't able to sell because we were shut down. Right. But it's not like we had spring clothing and by the time we reopened, people are looking for winter. Our inventory situation was a lot easier to manage than I would say fashion retail was.
Yeah.
But yeah, the vendors were amazing.
To me, it seems like this would have been a time for, and I know that I can't speak to the correct business term, but I guess there were places where small businesses could file to get some funding and whatnot to kind of just help them during these times. I would hope that most small businesses would have taken advantage of that, just to help keep their business. Because, you think about small businesses, you think about how they make up, let's just say approximately 50% of our total economy. Then think about the number of employees that right. So it affects a lot of businesses and a lot of individuals. So it's
and I can't speak for others, but yes, the SBA was giving COVID relief loans, and of course you've heard about the PPP loan, and so those were both extremely helpful.
That's
for our surviving and thriving. Yeah,
right. Which to me not only benefited you, but benefited the entire economy. So
exactly.
It just makes sense to me that. Now I know we're coming up against the end of the show, but I have to ask this question, and I hope it's not controversial, and I think I know the answer because you just really base your business kind of strategy on personalization, kind of comfort level, now with the vaccine coming out. Okay. And more people are getting the vaccine, and we all fall into different categories, but whenever our time is where we can get our vaccine shot, is that something that you're going to encourage? I don't believe that you would require, but where are you going to stand as a business owner on the vaccine?
I have not made that decision yet. Because we're not at a place yet where it's even available to me or to my employees. I don't know the answer to that.
Cross that bridge when you get to it.
Yeah, that's, I have several employees that are over the age of 65. And so they have applied online or waiting their turn to get their vaccine. And I'm happy for them to do that. But I haven't had any issues where anyone has said to me, I'm not getting it. And if you make me, I'm quitting. I haven't had that. I can't imagine I would have that. I also don't see that there would be a need to require it. I think people will do what they're comfortable with, and everyone else around them will adjust.
I think that's
kind of how we've done it.
I think that's a great answer, and I will tell you that's the answer I thought you were going to give. I know that there are some. I don't know. I've talked to several different people. Another friend of mine, and the answers are all over the place. if they have somebody in their office that is perhaps compromised. I have a friend whose boss has diabetes. If you're going back home to somebody who might be compromised, there are so many different scenarios here that might sway a business owner's decision on whether or not my personality is such that I would probably strongly encourage. I don't know where this all stands legally, but I don't know that I would legally, I don't know that I would require, but it's certainly something that now that the vaccine's out there, I think it's going to be a topic of conversation.
Correct. And it is, I mean, sadly, it is a challenge, like I was telling you, with customers, mask or no mask, and people getting upset. It is it's become a political issue. Mm-hmm. And so as a business owner, I have to be, and I have employees that work for me that are really Republican, and I have some that are really Democrat, and fall on both sides. And I really have to just stay neutral. My opinions really are to myself, and I try to manage both sides. As a business owner, I think you have to.
And Melissa, that is why we can applaud your efforts as a business owner and all that you do, because you have succeeded, you have survived and thrived, and you've created. And I just have to say, I know we're really pushing up against the end, but I truly mean this. If you've not been into Paper Fair, Dallas, Plano, Frisco, you just got to go. If you have an hour out of your time to just browse around, bounce around, you're going to leave with something. You just can't go in there and not find something that you have to have.
I might mention. I might mention that in a few weeks, we've got a kind of a special date coming up, like Valentine's Day.
The only time of year that men come in our store.
That's right. And that's the hook I'm trying to throw out there.
I was a joke.
If it's ladies, if you're watching the show, tell your husbands to get over there. Because again, I go back to the staff. A guy can walk into that store and just say, I want to get something really nice for my wife, whether it's stationery or a robe or maybe some new glassware with our initials on it and all. What would you suggest? And ladies, for your Valentine, the same thing. This is not just a shop for ladies. This is a shop for anybody. There's lots of neat stuff.
Very cool gifts for guys too. Yeah.
And also you have an incredible selection of things for babies. If there's a baby coming in your life, you're going to a shower or there's a baby coming, there's some great things. And it's that personalization that makes it special and remembered.
Melissa, what are some of your popular Valentine items that you would recommend we check out when we get in there?
For guys or ladies, if neither of you have ever had our Poppy popcorn, there you go. You gotta come to it. The Poppy popcorn is one of our most popular things right now, and they have a salted caramel Valentine bag.
We're going in today.
Under $10. It's great for a girlfriend, great for a spouse. Go try the Poppy popcorn.
Between the popcorn and the fragrances and the candles and all, you walk in and your senses just go crazy.
Well, by the way, I'll be going in today because, as you know, I have to buy Emily her mask. So I will probably open the bag of Poppy popcorn and eat it while I'm shopping.
That's allowed. I look forward to seeing you, Vaughn. Well, I'll warn the girls you're coming.
I know.
Stuart, it won't surprise you that Vaughn makes an entrance when she comes.
Yeah, she always has and always will. What you have to do is
love me.
I'll give you a tip, Melissa. You just tell the girls that if Vaughn gets too chatty, have somebody call the store. When the phone rings, then they can answer and say, "Oh, I have to take this call, Vaughn."
That's a great idea. I like that. We'll use that next time.
Hey, the next time Karen picks up the phone while I'm in there, I'm going to be suspicious.
There you go.
Who's on the other line? Who is that?
It's paperaffair.dallas.com. It's got all the information you need. Give them a call if it's something special you're looking for, and pop in and say hello and let them know that you enjoyed listening to Melissa talk with us on Something to Talk About.
Melissa, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Have a great day.
So have a great day, guys.
And you all go out, make it a great weekend and a great week, the rest of your week, and all. Join us again next week at 11 o'clock right here for another edition of Something to Talk About.
Bye, guys.